Welcome to another episode of SportsVibe. I'm Arnav Sarkar here with Jitesh Ramakrishnan. Busy week in sports as always. We got March Madness heating up, Final Four in both men's and women's basketball set. We got the MLB season underway. Yankees are off to a 5-0 start with the sweep of the Astros. We've got the NHL season and NBA season coming down to the wire, the playoffs coming into full vision. So can't wait to talk about all of that here on this episode. But first of all, of course, we got to lead off with March Madness. Final Four, like I mentioned, both men's and women's are set. The lead 8 games were pretty good. Start with the men's side. For 4 games in this past weekend, I was able to watch a lot of all four, if not all, maybe not all 4 games, but I watched at least enough to get a good picture. Some points here for this episode. So UConn versus Illinois, close in the first half. Good defense. So did UConn. Illinois is one of the best teams in the Big Ten. I was pretty high on them, I guess, partially because I don't like Purdue, so it's kind of fun to root for the second best team. I realize I kind of do that a lot, but in any case, Illinois I like their game plan, their style of offense. But against UConn, the second half, UConn just dominated. Their starting five, one of the best in the country. I think the best in the country with Donovan Clingan, who had 22 points, 10 rebounds. No one could really stop him. Caravan, Cam Spencer, the former Rutgers transfer, some really good three-point shooters, some really good freshman guards, and Tristan Newton, Stephon Castle, although they only scored 5 and 2. It was really Donovan Clingan show 22, Spencer 11, Caravan 10, and then Hassan Diarra on the bench, Samson Johnson also with 11 and 10. So pretty spread out performance. But UConn went on a 30-0 run in the second half, and that was really the dying story because the game was tied right before the end of the first half. UConn had a 5-point lead, and UConn absolutely rolled them in the second half, hitting all their shots. Defensively, just blocking. Donovan Clingan was blocking Terrence Shannon at the rim, blocking the Illini. I mean, UConn really just took off. It was like everything was going their way, and that just shows like a dominant won the championship last year. I don't know. I think there's a pretty good chance they do it again. I mean, Alabama, they beat Clemson. That was a good matchup. Again, Capil will probably he's really happy about that. I've been talking to him about Alabama, obviously, because he's a big Bama fan. But they're proving their success away from the football field and on on the hardwood as well. I mean, it was a really good game. Mark Sears, 23 points. He made some big threes. Clemson had a good fight, but like they fell short. This is the first Final Four ever for the Crimson Tide. So great performance. They shoot a lot of threes. They shoot them sometimes pretty well, but I feel like against UConn, they're going to really need to move. Otherwise, I think UConn's, they're going to play tight defense. Alabama's not a very good defensive team. I think UConn's probably going to have no problem dominating Alabama unless Alabama makes a ton of threes. And even then, it might not work, but we'll see. I feel like UConn's definitely a much better team than almost anybody. I thought Illinois had a good chance of giving them a game, but I don't know. I'm not too sure. As good as Alabama's been, they've had a really good run. I don't think they're going to have what it takes to take down UConn. The only team I could see giving UConn a game is Purdue. And I feel like even they might fall short because Zach Edey might be limited. But speaking of Purdue against Tennessee, Zach Edey was 40 points. Now he went to the free throw line I believe 22 times, which is ridiculous, but he gets fouled a lot. He also doesn't get called for fouls. It's very annoying the way Purdue plays basketball because they'll feed it to him. But I mean, it was a good game. I mean, despite Purdue's lack of shooting ability for the most part, they still dominated that game. Or they didn't dominate. It was a close game, but they had the upper hand. It felt like Fletcher Lawyer with 14 points. He played pretty well. Brain Smith 9, Lance Jones 7. They have some good shooters on the outside. They have good guard play, which I think helps them a lot. Because last year they didn't have great guard play, and they got exposed for that against much weaker opponents. This year they've been able to dominate. But Zach Edey really with 40 points, the story of the game because Purdue only had 72. And then on Tennessee side, Dalton Connect, 37 points, absolutely dominant. 6 for 12 on threes, just great shooting. It was really Edey versus Connect. Two great players there. Tennessee fell short. It's bad when a lot of SEC fans are rooting for Tennessee. against one of their own, or they're rooting for one of their own rivals because Edie gets fouled too many times. But I complain about it a lot on social media after the game. But it is what it is. I mean, that's their strategy, and Purdue's like Michigan, they're representing the Big Ten well. They're going now to the Final Four where they take on NC State, and NC State is probably America's team. I mean, they're America's darlings. DJ Byrne played absolutely fantastic in the game against Duke. He had 29. His footwork, um, just his shot selection, like just the way he plays the game, like that's what you like to see. He has a very similar game to Nikola Jokic, and Jokic was actually watching his highlights and he complimented him, which I thought was nice. And they both have that way of with the footwork and the soft touch, the mid range, in the paint, the footwork around, low post kind of stuff, like all the stuff a center should be able to do, but much in a much more like beautiful looking way. And then like Zach Edey's fouled 20 times a game and fouls other people and doesn't get called for it. So just a good contrast there. But DJ Byrne really leading the way. DJ Horn, the other DJ on their team, with 20 points. That whole team though really played a huge role. Casey Morcell, I believe he had an injury. He recovered from that. He's been giving them goodness. Michael O'Connell, the sharpshooter. Mohamed Diarra, another big. Ben Middlebrooks, he had some 5 rebounds, 7 points. I mean, so it was just a complete team effort. And the Duke Blue Devils, second loss to NC State in a few weeks. NC State won 5 games in 5 days just to make it to the tournament. They were the 10th seed in the ACC. So just remarkable that they even got there in the first place. And to make it all the way for is just absolutely remarkable. But that's what March is all about. And, for Duke, I mean, Jared McCain had a great performance. He had 32 points. Really do like him. Filipowski with 11. He was limited. He got in foul trouble, fouled out of the game. And Jeremy Roach also 13. Those were the leading scorers for the Blue Devils. Actually used to like Duke a lot when I was a kid because I didn't really know too much about college basketball or something. But I don't know. But at the same time, NC State, just a fan favorite team. And I'm glad they're in the Final Four. I do feel like Purdue's going to give them trouble because Zach Edey's going to probably get Burns into foul trouble early. And if Burns can give Edey a hard time and them have a really good battle in the paint, I feel like this could be a good game. And I feel like everyone's really excited to see that. I feel like Edey with more height is gonna dominate in the paint, even against a guy like DJ Burns. And I feel like that's going to give NC State problems. And I feel like Purdue, they had a very poor shooting performance against Tennessee. They still won. So turn it up against NC State, or even if they don't, if they can just dominate in the paint, I feel like they should have no problem. But then again, NC State has overcome the odds when no one thought they would, time and time again. I just feel like Purdue's too good of a team. I feel like the run might end there, but I don't know. That's why you play the games. It could go away. I'm sure everyone's rooting for NC State, almost everyone, but I feel like both Purdue and UConn are going to be too much for their opponents, but it's been a fun March, I guess. There hasn't been too many upsets since the first round, but NC State provides that kind of excitement of March. Purdue is just a good team. UConn's a really good team. Alabama also making it all the way. So yeah, an exciting Final Four. I'm going to take Purdue and UConn to win, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if NC State pulled it off. I kind of have a hard time believing Alabama would pull it off, but if they shoot like 53s and they make like 30 of them, then they probably could. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, I mean that's kind of the side of things. So have you been watching the men's tournament games? And do you have like any takeaways from all of this?
I mean, like I said, I don't really tend to just watch like college sports as a whole. This includes like even baseball, football, basketball. It's not really my cup of it's not really my cup of tea. But like I do pay attention to certain things. Like for example, like a- as talked about last week, uh, basically Kentucky replaced Duke's first round choker label, and of course Duke just bowed out. Um, and
Yeah, yeah.
so
They still made a good
so yeah,
run.
I see stuff like that. Like the other day with my friends, I was watching. It was NC State versus Alabama, right? Or I don't know.
Um, Duke,
Or what?
Duke on Sunday.
Oh, But then maybe I was thinking of the
And then
wrong
Marquette,
NCs,
they
but
play
maybe
Marquette on Friday. Yeah.
or yeah.
Anyway,
No, there was an NC game. Maybe I was watching UNC. I don't know.
it was
But
UNC
yeah,
Alabama, and Alabama beat
yeah,
them,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and they were
yeah.
a one seed too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what I was
Hmm.
thinking of. UNC. So I was
Yeah.
watching that with a couple of my friends, um, and so yeah. I mean, one of my friends actually called it. I think with I'd like to say around 8 minutes left in the second quarter. He said Alabama's going to pull this out. We all kind of clowned on him, uh, and lo and behold, he was right. So props to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as I've said repeatedly, time and time, as sports fans, we live to be
Right.
surprised and disappointed and
Yeah.
enraged and infuriated and just to
Hmm.
feel sadness and the occasional whimsical feeling of happiness. But mainly, we live to be surprised. So yeah, like even though I
Yep.
don't really tune into all this stuff that much, sometimes I pay attention a couple times just to see what's up, and like I mean,
Right.
I think now that it's around the final four, I might be a little bit more inclined to peer into the last couple of weeks. But
Right.
yeah, I guess it's kind of the same way like soccer, except actually I don't know what I care less about, college sports or soccer. I honestly don't know what I
Like
care less
soccer.
about. But like for example, I like in FIFA, I don't care about the first rounds at all. Like the group stages, they mean nothing to me. Once we start getting down towards like 16, like the 16, that's when I'm a little bit more interested. And then always have to watch when Neymar chokes, when Ronaldo chokes, you know, the classics, whenever those happen. But of course, this FIFA tournament's going to be very different because this time there's 48 teams and three host countries. Um,
Hmm.
Canada, Mexico, and the United States. And of course, all three all three host countries, um, as we know, all every host country gets a spot in the tourney. And when was the last
Right.
time Canada even played in the FIFA World Cup? Because at least we know Mexico and the
I think
United
they were
States
there.
play
They were there last year, right? Or didn't they like make?
in
Did they make
in
the knock
Sochi
last time? Right?
in Sochi.
I don't know. I feel like they made it and they made it to the last one. And I forgot if they made the knockout stage or not. No. Yeah, they did. Let me see.
Oh,
No, they
uh,
were on the group. They were on the group stage. Yeah, but they made they've been looks like they made the last few, I think. So or no, they didn't.
oh, oh,
They the
oh,
last time they made it was 2022. Yeah,
oh, you meant
yeah.
last one as in when Argentina won it in
It's
Qatar. Okay,
Qatar.
okay, because
Yeah,
I'm like
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
remember
yeah.
ever seeing Canada play in the FIFA World Cup. But
Yeah,
then
because I
again,
remember
that's
they got better.
but then again that's on me for not paying attention to the early stages of things. But I guess that's what I get.
Right,
So things that I'm not interested in, I tend to focus when it funnels down. But of course, likewise
right,
the opposite. On things that I'm very interested in, I will focus from the start of the foundation all the way to the bottom. So yeah. So like I said, even though like college sports and FIFA fall way below on my list of interests when it comes to sports, as soon as things narrow down, as soon as I hear talks of like rivalry, tension, beef, opponents hating each other, I tend to stay interested.
the good
And
stuff.
one such example of opponents hating each other, and I believe it also happened last year, if I'm not mistaken, was what's her face, Clark and Reese. Don't they hate
Yeah,
each other?
Caitlin
Or at
Clark and
least their
Angel.
teams hate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's like a
either the
rivalry. I don't think they really hate each other. There's a rivalry between the two of them
the
because they're both
schools.
really good, and they. This is actually a good segue to the women's games which I wanted to talk about too, because LSU and Iowa played last night, and that was a rematch of last year's national title game, and LSU won that game in the championship over Iowa, and there's a lot of trash talk in the women's game. They've actually gotten like the women's game is booming right now. Like yesterday's LSU Iowa game had 12.3 million people watching it, which was the most ever. So I mean, people are really excited to see players like Caitlin Clark, who's been playing really well all season, dropping 40 points. And she has the most most points all time. I believe in the women's game ever, which is just impressive. They came to Rutgers. Every year that Iowa's women's team played in was pretty much a sellout. Everyone wanted to see her, but I mean, their whole team is clicking right now. I mean, so many of their other players as well. I mean, Hannah Steikley, Gabby Marshall, Kate Martin, Cynthia Falter. They're all been playing really well. Their whole team has been playing on a high level. And LSU, meanwhile, they won the national championship. They brought a lot back. Angel Reese, famously did the "I Can't See You" celebration to Caitlin Clark, and I believe Caitlin Clark did that to some other player, and then Angel did it to her. So there's a lot of trash talk like that. But this year Iowa got the win. Caitlin Clark in this game had 41 points, 12 rebounds, 12 assists, 7 rebounds, another 40 piece for one of the greatest college players in the game. I mean, it's just incredible what she's done. Kate Martin, 20, Falter with 16. And then LSU side, Angel Reese had 17, Flajay Johnson, 23, Michaela Williams at 18, and Anissa Mora, 14. Haley Van Lith, who transferred in she had 9. So, I mean, it was a great game. Fortunately, I wasn't really able to watch that one. I was a little busy, but I saw the highlights. It was good stuff. I mean, the women's game is really booming. And on the other side of the bracket, to complete Final Four, UConn took down USC. So both UConn's men's and women's team and NC State's men's and women's team are both in the Final Four. But for the Huskies, one of the legendary programs on both sides of both men's and women's college basketball, Paige Becker is another big star of the game, 28 points with 4. And then USC's Juju Watkins, who's also a big star, 29. Mackenzie Forbes at 20. So I mean, just a high powered duel there between two top basketball programs, in the women's game. So I'm excited to see the Final Four on the women's side as well. I mean, UConn taking on Iowa is going to be a great game. You got Paige Beckers, you got Caitlin Clark, you got two big programs. I think Caitlin Clark wanted to go to UConn, but she didn't get like an offer or something, so she stayed home in Iowa. So there's like there's storylines there, but they're both really good programs. Obviously Iowa LSU was a really good one, but so is Iowa UConn. On the other side of the bracket, number 1 South Carolina, who hasn't lost a game all season. Very good team. Last year lost to Iowa in the semifinals after also undefeated. South Carolina, led by Coach Don Staley, one of the great coaches in the game, one of the best teams. They have so many star players of their own. And then NC State, in the men's side, they might be like a Cinderella. On the women's side, they're a 3 seed, so they're no even. So they were a pretty good team. I believe I guess they lost the ACC championship, but they were still a very solid team. So I mean, they beat Texas in the Elite Eight. So, I mean, I haven't really watched too much women's basketball, to be honest, other than some of the big matchups and a little bit of some of Rutgers here and there, obviously, as a member of the radio station. But the Final Four, I mean, Iowa's must-watch TV every night. But, I mean, Iowa, UConn, I think that's going to be a really good one. NC State, South Carolina, I think that's also going to be a good one. But I mean, it's just doing wonders for its sport. It's doing wonders for, ratings. It's doing wonders for, people really seeing, because the women's game is very talented in its own right. It's it's very high level. Like, I mean, these are future WNBA players. And in a lot of ways, like, college women's basketball, in my opinion, is probably in some ways better than the WNBA. It probably has much better ratings. And,
I 100. Here's the thing: as someone who actively watches neither, I can 100% endorse what you're saying, because the WNBA, since its inception, has basically been a failure. Whereas every year you get millions of people tuning into March Madness. What you don't find are millions of people tuning into the WNBA, even when there are,
Exactly. Even when they're like pros versus college athletes, still.
I mean, I legitimately can't name 3 WNBA teams right now, and I'm not going to bother. But it's like, still, even when those finals are going on, no one cares. I think more people invested in this ridiculous in-season tournament garbage in the NBA than they are in the WNBA finals. And likewise, more people invested in March Madness for the women's bracket than they are in the WA. NBA, even in the
Yeah,
finals. So
exactly,
100%
exactly.
back with what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, well, I made that point in the first place, but I mean, yes, it's a really good job marketing it with all this, Caitlin Clark stuff and Angel Reese and like the rivalries and like it's just been really good for the sport. I mean, I hope it continues to grow the game and bring eyes on it because it's definitely a product that that it deserves that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's good basketball, like it really is. Like so yeah,
I
I'm really
mean,
happy to see that. I'm gonna try to tune in
there's
on Friday because those are gonna be
like
some
what
really good matchups.
you could say, the one women's sport that has really thrived without the need for all without the need for massive marketing is women's tennis. Like, without any question, that's the most popular
Yeah,
women's sport.
I
Like,
agree. Yeah, because it's
like
like equally. Yeah, like everyone watched the women's and the men's final, or
I mean,
matches
think
up
about it.
to that.
No,
In
no,
every
think about it
open, and
from
they pay the same for both of them too.
exactly. Like, think about it from 10, 15 years ago. Like, like, let me ask you this: like, have you seen any extensive marketing for of course, you'll see Rafael Nadal doing advertising for Tommy Hilfiger or something like that, but Djokovic do one for Asics or something, or even Roger Federer do one for Unicorn. But it's like, still, like, there isn't really that much marketing going on within tennis, and honestly, it's not even needed because they already play on a global platform where millions of people already watch. I mean, of course, the WNBA and March Madness, of course, we know is domestic. It's pretty much the United States. So, but even then, even in the Davis Cup, the Indian Wells tournament, Cincinnati Open, even Miami, millions of people still tune into tennis for both men and women. So you talk about 10, 15 years ago with women's tennis. You had names like Serena, you had names like Venus, you had Sharapova, you had Kim Clijsters, you had Azarenka. Like,
Mm.
you had all these names, and um, I'm probably forgetting a couple off the top of my head right now. But I just need to five, well, more than five of the best women's tennis players of the past 10, 15 years, and it still holds today. I mean, so of course, none of those players are playing right now. Of course, now you have. I mean, we had Ash Barty before she retired, but now Osaka's come back to the game. Now we have Sabalenka. She's been kicking up. We have Swiatek. So tennis, the beautiful thing about tennis is that even when one dynasty is closing, like and dynasty isn't not in the championship, but because these players tend to play for 10, 15 years, even though one of those dynasties is closing, another one opens. Like, sure, we just lost arguably the greatest three-headed rivalry across sports. Like, Rogers retired, Rafa's soon to be retired, Djokovic probably has a couple more years in him. But now we're getting a replacement soon enough. We got Alcaraz, we got Casper Ruud, we got Tiafoe, we've got Ben Shelton. But, the replacements are already coming in with that. Will they be as great as that three-headed monster? That remains to be seen. But do we at least have that hype, that potential? Yes. Now, you would translate this over to the WNBA or March Madness or whatever. You have that hype in the beginning. And where does it all go once they get drafted in the NBA? Down the gutter. Because no one cares anymore. That's where the WWE struggles. I mean, forget financially. They struggle in just pure marketing. Like, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, they have to do a
Like,
better job with the marketing aspect. I mean, yeah, because I feel like
no,
college
no, no,
women's
no,
basketball is a
not
booming
not
industry
even
that
a
goes
no,
into the league.
no,
Yeah,
not even a better job. They just need to do a job
a
because
job.
no,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel
because
like
no
not
one
too many people
cares.
really care
I mean,
about the league.
I
Yeah.
mean, I
The
will
only
say,
yeah, exactly. Unless you're
I'll
like a
say this on
diehard
the air right now.
fan, I guess.
No, I'll say this on the air right now. Like, no one cares, and I'll say this right now. I don't care. You know why? Because you
Yeah,
fail
that's
to
fair.
market these
See,
players.
what I did
Because
like, yeah, what I thought the
I
whole
can't even
the
I
tournament
can't even name
was
three
good with
three other
like
teams. Let
yeah.
alone forget three players. I can't even name three other teams. Like, for example, even
Yeah, I
though
mean, I
I
could
do
probably
not
name three or
care.
four teams, but yeah.
Listen, even though I do not care about soccer at all, like especially the UEFA or whatever, I could still name you Man City,
Mhm.
Manchester United. Juventus or Juventus, whatever it's called, PCG and PSG. I don't know why I said PCG. PSG. Like I could still name you all these clubs.
The
Like
big
even
exactly same
Tottenham,
here.
yeah, Tottenham, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal. I can name you all these teams. I mean, do I really know any players? No. But even though I don't care about soccer, I still know about all these teams and even a couple of players. Why? Because they know how to market. The WNBA fails at marketing. Hence why the WNBA has been a failure for about 30 years.
Yeah, I agree. And
And
I guess one thing I will
let's
say
not
though,
forget,
I don't know.
let's not forget, if it weren't for the NBA stepping in every year, the WNBA would have folded after its inaugural season.
Yeah, they're running on a loss, but yeah, hopefully that works out. Yeah, I mean, there's talent going from the college to the WNBA level. Like, we saw with like Sabrina Ionescu, and hopefully that continues with like Clark and like all these players and Angel Reese. I mean, there's so many in the league already. Unfortunately, I also don't really follow it enough to really go on about that. But I mean, there is a lot of talent, especially nowadays. It's just yeah, I feel like it isn't being marketed like pretty much at all. What I will say though is I did like the 3-point contest idea between Steph and Sabrina. I thought that was a really good idea. I mean, that was an NBA thing, but maybe that could,
I
that
mean,
could
hey,
bring some
it's
eyes
an
to the
attempt.
game.
It,
You know?
it's an
It
attempt.
is,
Like,
yeah. So like these
what?
girls could shoot as well as some of the best guys, and maybe other than
I mean,
Stephen
what?
Curry, who's
I
on
mean,
his own planet,
will
right?
it draw
But
more?
pretty
Will it draw
close,
more
yeah.
attention? Will it draw more attention? That possibly.
Probably not, but
I mean, again,
it could. It could do a decent job, yeah.
I mean, again, for me, people like, again, for people like me who've never cared about any All Star events, it doesn't really appeal to me because, I mean, you know, I don't care about it. I don't care about All Star events because it's a loss of competition, especially if you see the
Yeah,
NBA's
yeah.
pathetic excuse of an All Star game over the past 5 years.
Yeah,
It's a
no, that
complete,
the Sabrina
to me,
stuff thing was the
no, I'm
best
saying,
thing of the whole
yeah,
weekend. Like honestly,
no, I'm saying
or
that to
dunk
me, like,
contest days now. Like forget
yeah,
it.
I mean, like, if you're just, to me, like, over the past 5 years, the NBA, All Star game is a complete disrespect to basketball. And but
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
remember like 10, 15 years ago when the home run derby was actually really engaging to watch. I would actually watch the home run derby. Like that's because the NBA the NBA the MLB has changed everything to not be as
Hmm.
favorable anymore. Like the All Star games it used to be about prestige, just watching the best players just go at it. Now now what all these All Star events are with all the big four sports, they're all just about like you know it's just the names. It's not even about what you see on the field or the court anymore. It's just about what names can you bring to the table, and that's where it lost the appeal to me. So I haven't actively tuned into any of these things over the past few years, and frankly, I don't really see any change for like coming up anytime soon. So I'm probably still going to stay out of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the only time I cared about like the WNBA last season was when the New York Liberty were playing the Aces, and I think both teams were really good and had kind of a good season series, and they were way better than everyone else. And I only cared because one of the teams was like a New York team playing the same arena of Barclays. So I kind of cared because it was just like I wanted them to win, but I didn't really like, follow it. But no, I totally get your point about the whole All Star thing and about the marketing, and I feel like they need to do a better job of doing that. Yeah, I mean, I do feel like the college
And,
game's kind of blooming at the right time,
and
so hopefully that
I
kind of
think
trickles in, I guess.
and,
But yeah,
and I think speaking of sports that need to do a better job of marketing, let's turn to hockey.
right? Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
I mean, I mean, sure. Listen, hockey is over the past few years has definitely taken off, but like comparatively, it's not even a question. But um,
Right.
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question. Last year, when you were watching, I forget the NBA. Do you remember if TNT covered the Western Conference Finals for the NBA last year? Or was it the Eastern Conference? Eastern, right?
Mm, I Yeah, I think Eastern, like they switch, right? Because
Okay.
for a while they used to always do Western, and ESPN used to do. I think they switched, if not
No.
mistaken. But
I think they switch every year.
or maybe they didn't. Oh, they do.
ESPN,
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I always
yeah.
used to get used to the ESPN doing Eastern and NBA doing, or
Yeah.
TNT doing
Anyways,
Western,
yeah.
and then
Anyways,
ESPN doing finals. But yeah.
point digressing. So the ever since the NBC deal ran out with the NHL to cross Stanley Cup Finals games,
Mhm.
because the retirement of Doc Emmerich, uh, and Doc Emmerich
Right.
was legendary when he called. Uh, ever since that ever since that ended, the NHL picked up a deal with TNT to to provide coverage, to provide analysis, and
Right.
to even
ESPN
showcase
and
the game.
TNT. Mhm.
Right, right. But I'm just going to stick with TNT on this one. So,
Uh-huh.
um, so of course, you and I, we're basketball fans. We know the name Charles Barkley, arguably the face of NBA on TNT, and
Mhm.
arguably one of the funniest dudes ever. Now,
Oh man, I love Inside
yeah,
NBA. Love
yeah,
it.
oh yeah, it's amazing. They could just be,
Uh-huh.
honestly, they could just be talking about what flavor of cotton candy is their favorite, and I'd still watch it. But, anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, likewise, we're both fans of hockey. You and I, of course, and even fans who don't know hockey know the name Wayne Gretzky, obviously. Now,
Mhm.
Wayne Gretzky, Wayne Gretzky is a commentator on TNT for NHL on TNT.
Mhm.
And what Barkley and Gretzky did, I believe this was at some point during the Eastern Conference Finals for I forget who. Like, I mean, of course we know who was playing the Heat and Celtics and uh, Panthers Hurricanes, but the point digressing, they had a crossover segment where Barkley, uh, in 5 minutes, had a more ringing endorsement of why he loves Matthew Tkachuk and hockey.
Yeah, I remember
In
that. Yeah,
five,
yeah. He
yeah,
was
in
really
5 minutes,
promoting it. Yeah.
yeah, in 5 minutes, a legendary basketball player did more significant promotion and marketing for hockey than hockey itself. So that's why I say, you know, kind of got to step it up in the show. But anyways, so point being, the playoff race is really coming together. Things have gotten really heated right now. Yesterday, the Detroit Red Wings picked up two massive points that they won against the Tampa Bay Lightning. There's, I mean, right now they're technically tied for the second wild card spot with Washington Capitals. At the time of the speaking, Philadelphia's in the third spot because of the point they picked up against the Islanders the other day. Um, of course,
Mhm.
Tampa Bay, they're I would say almost firmly locked into the first wild card spot. So Tampa Bay most like, and Tampa Bay most likely will either end up playing the Bruins or the Rangers in their first round. I think
Mm.
most likely. I
Spicy.
think. I mean, of, well, I can't say most likely just yet because the Atlantic is extremely tight right now. Florida's playing the Montreal Canadiens as we speak, and Florida's 2 points behind Boston. So if there's some overtaking there or whatever, it could be we could potentially have to battle Florida again for the first round. And I mean, we've had to battle Florida a couple times now. We've had it in 2021 where Tampa Bay just embarrassed Florida, and then we've also had it in 2022 when Florida won the President's Trophy and got embarrassingly swept by Tampa Bay yet again. So it hasn't really been too much of a battle, so to speak. But hey, the name lives on. So we, of course, Toronto, actually not too far behind in the Atlantic right now. And let's go to the Metro. New York and Carolina, the Rangers, are basically battling for the first spot. Carolina's 3 points behind. They're at 101. Rangers are at 104 at the time of this speak. And of course, Washington Caps, the Red Wings, they're tied for the second wild card spot right there. The New York Islanders are not that far behind. Um, they picked up a big win against the Philadelphia Flyers the other day to still remain in the race. If they had lost that, that probably would have been maybe the you know the fatal blow to their playoff chances. But of course, the race is still interesting right now. Pretty much every team after after the Islanders, they can kiss their playoffs hopes goodbye. So of course the Penguins, the Devils, the Sabres. I really thought the Sabres might actually make a big push, especially after their late season surge a couple weeks ago. But fortunately, it hasn't happened yet. But I've been pulling for Detroit to make it to the playoffs. I think I said it during the beginning of the season. I envisioned Detroit as a playoff team. I mean, of course, I didn't envision them signing Patrick Kane, but when you sign the greatest American hockey player ever, things are going to happen to your team. And apparently, as I said before, Patrick Kane only likes playing for original six franchises. So, and pretty much American original six franchises. So, you know what that means. Patrick Kane is coming to the Boston Bruins next. Hopefully, actually, I don't even know if I could say hopefully. He killed us in 2013. But anyways, point digressing. So now we go to the West, and the West. I thought the first round of the East, uh, potential first round matchups in the East would be crazy. Oh no, potential first round matchups in the West. I mean, this could arguably be the greatest first round series ever, like in all of sports. Like, I mean, right now, I'll just run through everything right now. The Dallas Stars are currently leading 103 points in the Central Division. The Avs aren't too far behind the 100. They had a, they had a pretty surprising loss yesterday to Columbus, so that might have set everything back. Of course, Nathan McKinnon is still tearing up everything on the ice. And of course, we have the Pacific. We have the Vancouver Canucks at 100 points. Then we have the Edmonton Oilers. They're at 95. And for now, Vegas is at 30. The wildcard teams, Nashville Predators at 90, who are currently playing the Bruins at this moment, and the Los Angeles Kings at 87. St. Louis trails not too far behind at 84, but of course they need some luck to turn their way. And of course, to this day, I still don't understand what the Nashville Predators are doing in the Western Conference. Just like I don't understand why the Memphis Grizzlies are in the Western Conference. I mean, sure, I guess the Grizzlies were from Vancouver at one point, so I guess that kind of makes sense, but it's still stupid. But anyways, like at the time of this recording right now, we could have I think we'd have Stars and Kings facing off, and then we'd have Colorado versus Winnipeg, and then we'd have Vancouver versus Nashville, and then this would be the real bloodbath. If things were to stand off today, we'd have Edmonton versus Vegas, a battle of last year's second round matchup
Oh,
where Vegas
good
won in
series.
six.
Yeah, I like that one too. Yeah, no,
I
a lot
mean,
of great matchups. Yeah, I'm enjoying like I get the point where we could stop like just looking up and down the standings, so we could start previewing series and stuff. And yeah, I mean Vegas Edmonton would be really like a really good one. Even like Stars Kings, like these could really really in the cross division stuff. Canucks
well,
Panthers and Avalanche Jets,
well,
assuming things stay still, which they can obviously change. But the East
and
one's like
if
very intriguing if we
and if
get
things were to
Florida, the
yeah, and
Battle
if
of
things were to
Florida.
really
Yeah.
change, and if things were to really change, we could potentially have Oilers Kings for the third year in a row. And I believe
Mm.
all of those were first. Yeah, I think all of those were first round matchups. Oilers Kings, Oilers Kings, Oilers
Oh
Kings.
wow, same matchup again.
Where
Would be
Edmonton
interesting.
triumphed the previous two times.
Right. Yeah, I
Anyways,
remember that. Yeah. Yeah, and then I
yes,
think Edmonton, Vegas, like Vegas beat Edmonton in the playoffs last year too. I think that was the
yeah, in
Western
the
Conference
second round.
Finals last year,
No, that was the
or
second
second
round.
round. Yeah.
Yeah, Vegas
Oh, wait,
played
who'd they be in the conference finals? I forget. Like
the Dallas
Vegas. I
Stars.
forget who Vegas. Oh, right.
The
They
Dallas Stars.
yeah, and Dallas tried to come back, and then they fell. I
Remember,
think it's six.
it
So
was no,
yeah,
no.
yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that.
remember last year's the battle of the green teams down 3-0. It was the Celtics and the Stars, and then of course
Yeah.
Dallas rallied back, but they lost, I believe, 6-0 in the Western Conference Finals in Game 6. And of
Right.
course, the Celtics,
Yeah.
in classic Boston Celtics fashion, they went down 3-0, then they tied it at 3-3,
Man,
and then they laid
that
and
was
then they
something.
laid and then they laid a goose egg on home ice
in Game
at home
7.
ice
I know, just
home
seeing
court.
them come back like that was just like, whoa, are they gonna
Here,
do it? And then the Game
here's the
7 just
thing.
like, oh, the gas fell off the tank.
Here's the thing. Reverse sweeps have happened before. It's not just as uncommon
In the
as you think.
NHL, they have, right?
Yeah, in the NHL, it's the most common. But of course, since it's the NHL, most people don't talk about that. What is talked
Mm-hmm.
about, of course, in terms of reverse sweeps, the first thing that comes to mind, especially since as a Yankees fan, 2004 ALCS, Red Sox versus
Yeah,
Yankees. It's
I
the
was
first
about
thing
to
that
say.
comes to mind.
I was about to say.
For, and of course, naturally, the Bostonian. I mean, even though you know, Bostonians from both sides of that. And likewise, Bruins fans like myself, we tragically remember 2010 when we were up 3-0 against the Philadelphia Flyers. And then in Game 7, I believe in the third period, we were up 3-0, and then we laid the ultimate goose egg. So, yeah, that kind of
Those
stuff.
are rough too. Yeah, both ways of,
And then,
3-0 is rough. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, both ways.
The reverse sweep
Actually,
or the coming back and then falling short, that could be rough. But that's
and there was
it's just the worst feeling.
and, and there was a reverse sweep 10 years ago too. Almost 10 years ago to the actually, yeah, almost 10 years ago to the date. Let's see, it was the Los Angeles Kings versus the San Jose Sharks. And
Yeah, I remember that one. I'm back on
yeah,
them, right? Beat
yep,
them
that's the one.
7. Man,
Yeah,
yeah. See, I have a good memory with this stuff. Yeah, no, yeah, I remember that one. It's crazy. It's I guess it's harder in the end because I feel like talent kind of takes over at some point, and it's really tough when you fall behind that much in basketball versus hockey. There's still a little bit of like, puck bouncing, and there's still a little bit more luck. It's like, but both of them are extremely rare. But I don't know. But then in the NBA, I guess the only way it could happen is in like a Celtics type situation where they're the more talented team. But even then, they like fall short. So like, but then like, why would he fall down 3-0? Like the Heat were like on another level too. Like it takes a
I
weird
mean,
set of circumstances
if you
to turn that kind
again,
of thing around.
if you remember
Yes,
the series, if you remember the series, like the first two games, Boston should have definitely at least taken game one. Forget game two. Like, even though that was another close one, Boston should have at least taken game one, like, without a doubt. But,
Right, yeah,
these
they
things
should have
tend to
won.
happen.
Yeah.
But, anyways,
Well,
I guess let's just transition to the NBA now.
yeah, I was about
And
to
then,
say we could
and
do the
then we
same
can.
thing. We could probably start looking at playoff
No,
previews and things like that.
yeah,
If you
tell you
want.
what. You,
We're close
all right, sports pun. We'll transition to the NBA. That's another pun right there. And then we'll close out with baseball. So let's see.
enough. I like it. I like it.
All right, so NBA right now. The Thunder are currently the 1 seed, although the Nuggets really are not that far behind. And same with the Timberwolves at the 3.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, potential
Three-way
first round.
ring. They're all neck
Right
and
now,
neck,
potential.
so it's gonna be
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Right now, potential first round matchups in the West would be Clips Mavs, which was a Western Conference
That's
Finals.
like that again.
No,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
no, that wasn't a Western Conference Finals. That was a Western Conference
Semis,
second round
semis. Right.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Then we'll have the
Multiple
Wolves
years,
Pelicans.
I think they played each other in the playoffs. Yeah, and the
But
Clippers have each
21.
beaten them. But
It was 21 and 22, if I remember correctly, right? For Eclipse
I think
Mavs.
so. And I think the bubble year too there was a series between the two of them. I think.
No.
Or
I don't
no,
know. Maybe I was
not.
thinking of Eclipse Nuggets.
Well, that one happened later. I think that was the second. I think Clips Mavs. I think that was. Yeah, Clips Nuggets was second round, and then famous 3-1 collapse there. Yeah, by the Clippers. But
and of course, in the East, potential as of right now, in first round matchups, the Knicks and the Magic. I think this is really underrated because, I mean, not because the Knicks, but because, like, one second. Sorry. Because literally
the
no
Magic
one has been
in
talking.
multiple times in
Yeah,
the regular season, which is
it's
very
not.
interesting.
It's not even about that. It's not even about that. It's because literally no one has been talking about the Orlando Magic this entire season.
Yeah.
Literally,
They kind
no.
of like, well, they didn't really sneak in there. They kind of had a really strong start to the season. They're in the mix. They kind of fell out
Yeah, they're
in play, and then they kind of
or
stuck back in again to the top
yeah.
six. So
Orlando
interesting stuff
or,
for sure.
Orlando has a lot of young, raw, athletic talent. So, you know, of course, like we'll finally see guys like Paulo in the playoffs. We'll see Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
So and
Yeah,
I
first time
always
in a
forget
long
how.
time for that
You
team.
know, first time since 2019 the Magic are in the playoffs. I think.
Okay, maybe
And
not
what's
that
his?
long because they were in the bubble playoffs, right? Or no, they weren't.
I don't count
Before
that.
that,
Yeah, I
I
was
think
talking.
before that.
No, in the first round
Well, they
they
were in
played the
that, I
Raptors.
believe too.
Yeah, the
Right,
first
right,
round they
right,
played the Raptors in 2019. But see, and
right, right, right.
wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
and then the Bulls center they traded for Vucevic. I think that's his name, right? Vucevic.
Hmm. Yeah, Vucevic. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is
Yeah,
true. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, he'll be in the playoffs. So you know
Yeah, it's
that
definitely a decent
I could.
series.
This one I would not be surprised if it goes to 6 or 7 either way. I really wouldn't be surprised with either team winning. And then we'll have Cavs Pacers at the same
Yeah.
time. I think, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the Pacers were really hot to start the season off, and then they kind of just trailed off a little bit. Whereas Cleveland, they were kind of mid to start the season, and then they've been catching a bit of fire. Of course, momentum is,
Yeah,
I'd argue
yeah.
momentum is more arguable. Like, I'd argue momentum is more important in the playoffs than talent. So
Oh, yeah.
would not, I would not be surprised if Cleveland gentlemen sweeps the Pacers.
Could be. Cleveland's a very talented team this year, and they also have a lot of momentum. They've been surging. I'm kind of high on the Knicks. I feel like if they can kind of get healthy, they can make a little bit of a run too. But
Aren't you a
I
Nets
don't know.
fan?
I mean, I think they could be the what? I
Aren't you a
am.
Nets
I don't
fan?
know.
Don't you want them to suck?
I want them
Don't
to
you want the
lose,
Knicks to
but
suck?
they're not getting past Boston. They're not gonna get past the Bucks or Cavs, or at least yeah. But
They
I
can
mean,
put up a
I feel
fight.
like between those, but yeah, I think they could put up a good fight against Cleveland or Milwaukee. They might even, if everything goes right, they could probably beat them, but they're gonna need to be fully healthy. And then the Celtics are like different beasts. But I think the Eastern Conference playoffs really runs between the Celtics, Bucks, Cavs, and Knicks. And I think we're gonna get some really good series. Like even as a Nets fan, I would love to see Celtics Knicks or like Celtics Bucks or Bucks Cavs or Celtics Cavs, like any combination of those. Celtics Bucks ideally probably in the conference finals, or but I mean Celtics Knicks, like sign me up for that. Like I feel like that could be a good one. There's like those four teams, they could provide some really good juicy matchups. And then in the Western conference side, I feel like the play-in could be really interesting. Eastern Conference side not too much, but like
No.
but
I
we'll see
don't count the
depending on
I
how
don't
the
count the
brackets
play
go.
in. I don't count the play in until things are actually set. So the play in means nothing to me.
That's true. Yeah, we don't exactly know yet, but there's a lot of bloodbath could happen between the Kings, which were a fan favorite team last year, the Suns somehow in that range. That could be a deadly team. Obviously, the Lakers, Warrior. You got Steph, you got LeBron. But if the Rockets can crack that group, but I feel like that's a huge ratings grab from Phoenix, Golden State if it stays that way. But I mean, in terms of the actual matchups. I mean, yeah. Right now, I guess as it sits, it probably it's kind of hard to say because the top three in the West are tightly bunched. Like we could see, and then and we don't know the play-in, so we don't really know what the first round for the 1 and 2 seeds are gonna exactly look like. So it's kind of hard to say. I mean, the Hawks took two from Boston. I feel like that'd be interesting if that was a first round series. But we'll have to
Yeah,
see. Or the Heat, the way they are in
and
the
especially
playoffs,
because
they
that's the
beat
first
Bucks
round
again.
matchup from
That
last
could be
year. And
yeah,
especially
exactly.
because
Both of those
yeah,
were Heat, Bucks, and Celtics Hawks. So yeah, and there were some sneakily good series. Um, the Hawks actually made that a little interesting. Then the Heat took out the Bucks, which was the first upset on their run last year. So I mean, those two have something in them again. Um, yeah, the Heat are a deadly team in the playoffs, as we know. I mean, the Hawks can make things interesting. Nets are a little bit too far outside, I guess. And everyone below them is eliminated, so they're probably soon to come. I mean, I don't really see in them. They had a nice 3-game win streak, and then on the other side, looking at the West, yeah, Clips Mavs would be a good series. Um, Pelicans, whoever draws them, the Pelicans are sneaky good. I feel like that could be an interesting one. I'm excited to see how far the Thunder and the Wolves go. I feel like eventually the experience and the talent of the Nuggets and Clippers are probably going to best them, but they're playing really well in the regular season. I don't know. I mean, we potentially could work out playoffs, but I feel like there's better teams out in the West. I feel like the Thunder particularly are a little young. They've been playing really well at the same time. They're ahead of schedule. The T Wolves, with Edwards and Bear and Towns. I mean, they have a good lineup, so I mean that could be interesting for sure. But at the end of the day, I still feel like it's eventually going to be. And then you got the Mavs in there. That's a good team too. I mean, I feel like this year is probably a good year for the Mavs or the Clippers. I feel like the Nuggets and the Clippers are probably going to be the last team standing when it's all said and done in the Western
I
Conference.
I could see that.
Potentially, I mean, we could always get some surprises, but I wouldn't count out the Thunder and the Wolves. But I mean, I feel like they'd be outlasted by like a team like the Nuggets or the Clippers if they're fully healthy in seven. But yeah. I mean, I guess to finish off here, we could shift over to the MLB. It's been opening weekends has happened. It's been an exciting few days. I mean, I feel like obviously as a Yankees fan, it's been a really exciting few days sweeping the Astros and
I mean, but
just
come
Juan
on,
Soto's been playing great.
you can't really call this redemption or something. Redemption is truly earned in October. But
Wait,
sure,
what?
I'm saying you can't really call this redemption or anything because
Yeah,
again,
it's 4 games in the
this
season
it's the opening series, and of course, redemption only happens in October and November.
in the
But
playoffs. Yeah.
regardless, regardless to say, even though the Astros starting lineup is completely decimated with injuries, they were still able to keep it fairly close um, until like the later innings where they just fell apart. But regardless,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
we could probably call this an overreaction 5 games in. Juan Soto looks like an MVP candidate. We could probably say that's an
Yeah,
overreaction.
he's so good hitting them from the throughout the plate the
But
first day. I mean, just sweeping them feels so good.
yeah,
Like, oh
and
man,
the
yeah,
thing
he
the,
really does.
the thing I like it the thing I like about baseball is that every baseball game is completely unpredictable because the Astros look
Yeah, they're all
like
different from each other.
no, no, it's not even that because it's like the Astros they just look like a dumpster fire in their first 4 games, and then lo and behold, uh, uh,
Oh, the no hitter last
lo,
night.
yeah, yeah, lo and behold, Ronel Blanco in his 8th career start throws a no-no, and so things happen, and I I love the unpredictability of baseball, and of
Yeah,
course Baltimore's had a strong start. The Red Sox, I thought they'd be bottom feeders because they don't have a starting rotation, um, especially with Giolito being out for the season, trading like Chris Sale, and of course Brian Baylor, he signed an extension um, a few weeks ago. So far, the Red Sox rotation has actually been surprisingly decent. I mean, but again, it's a few games into the season, so they looked sharp against Seattle, and of course, yesterday was a shutout against the Athletics. So, but again, considering that John Fisher looks at the Athletics, or at least looks at the city of Oakland like gum underneath the bottom of his shoe, it's not really much to speak about at this current moment. Um, let's see, Toronto has, I mean, Toronto they got bested in the no-no by Blanco yesterday. And of course, the Tigers are leading the AL Central. I will
mm-hmm.
say
Looking good.
I I was not expecting the Tigers to be front runners at this current moment. I was actually expecting it to be Minnesota, and then of course Cleveland's right in there, but they look pretty sloppy against the Athletics. Kansas City Royals. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. is off to a decent start with the Royals themselves. 4 games in, well, technically 5 games in right now because they're playing against Baltimore. I'm not looking so hot, but again, it's 5 games into the season right now. Really, you should start worrying about your record 20 games in. And then,
Yeah, like
of
after
course,
Memorial Day or something. Maybe
yeah,
even we'll. Yeah, by the end of this.
and of course, now we have the new failures of the AL Central, the Chicago White Sox. No longer the White Sox. Uh, the less said about the White Sox, the better. They have a negative 12
Yeah.
run
Fine.
differential right now. Like 0-4 at home to start. They have a negative 12 run differential, and it's 4 games into the season. And they're currently playing at Atlanta. Good luck. You're going to need it. Texas Rangers, since showing off their awesome rings, and those rings are awesome, they've had a good start this season, and they started off with a walk-off win against the Cubs. Um, Seattle Mariners, they've looked hot and cold so far against Boston. The Angels, since being deprived of Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout is still a force to be reckoned with, and Mike Trout hits bombs, and Mike Trout is still awesome. Houston, as we mentioned, they looked like garbage, and then they had some random guy throwing their hitter, and then the A's accidentally won a game. That's what I think at least. And then the Braves and the Phillies. Clearly, there's no love lost from the previous two postseasons. Both
Yeah.
teams still hate each other with a burning passion, and I love it. Spencer
It's
Strider,
great.
and then Max Fried. I don't know if you saw the game a couple days ago, where he threw a 2-2 fastball pretty much right in the middle of the zone. Umpire calls it a ball, and then Max Fried just gets shellacked for the rest of the inning. But other than that, other than that, Atlanta's rotation has looked pretty solid. The Nats kind of suck right now. The Mets really suck, and apparently
Mm-hmm.
Reese Hoskins lives rent free in Jeff McNeil's head, and apparently the rest of the Mets too. And the Miami Marlins, newsflash, without having their ace pitcher Sandy Alcantara, suck. Even though they have Jazz Chisholm, who's been looking pretty good to start the season so far. He's been red hot. Speaking of red hot, this is what happened to the Pirates last season as well. And at one point, I believe they
Yeah.
had the best record in the National League, or even just all of baseball at one point in the last season. The Pirates are off 5-0 right now. It's fun. It's fun seeing this young group of ballers starting to click. Um, I mean, of course, the Yinzers, the Pittsburgh neighbors, they're already thinking World Series bound. I just say calm down. We're 5 games in, but
Yeah.
it's nice to see this right now. The Brewers, they, I mean, ever since basically trading away Corbin Burns for kind of nothing, and opting to, and Brandon Woodruff isn't pitching for the season. The Brewers are 4-0. I was not expecting that, but then again, when you play an eternal dumpster fire like the Mets, it's kind of not surprising. The Cincinnati Reds have gotten off to a good start. The Cubs are straddling 500. The St. Louis Cardinals, they're 2-3 right now. And Brandon Crawford in a St. Louis Cardinals jersey still looks very, very weird. And finally, we get to the NL West. The Dodgers, 5-2 right now. Um, you know, even when their MVPs have a cold day, that's Shohei and and Freeman. The Dodgers randomly finds another guy to do it. You know, the man upstairs for the Dodgers, he just punted some random guy at the clubhouse. He's like, "All right, you're gonna have a great day today." And lo and behold, the random guy just hits he just gets a bunch of hits, bunch of RBIs, and it's the Dodgers who win. So the Dodgers are lethal even when their best players are not doing so good. Whereas on the Diamondbacks, they showed off their pennant rings. And I've always found pennant rings kind of weird because, I mean, I'm, the way I see
Right.
it, the way I see it, a pennant ring is basically not first loser, just the greatest loser. And so, you know, I, I don't, I mean, you can't really call it a participation trophy. It's second place after all, but still, I've always found the thought a little bit weird. But ever since the Diamondbacks showed off their fancy jewelry, they've gotten off to a good start. They're 3-2. The Padres, of course, they started their season in Seoul in South Korea, where they went 1-1 against
Right.
the Dodgers. And ever since then, they've looked all right at best. They're 3-4. Fernando Tatis Jr. looks good on the other hand. That's good to see. The San Francisco Giants, Jung Hoo Lee. I think that's it. Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, Jung Hoo Lee. He's been cooking to start the season for the Giants, and yeah, so they're 2-3. So the record isn't the best right now. And speaking of not the best record, let's go to the Colorado Rockies, 1-4 to start the season. already a negative 23 run differential, and we're 5 games into the season. Um, Rockies fans, this is where I ask you to just devote your attention to the Colorado Avalanche and the Denver Nuggets until their season's in, and then you could go back to watching this pretend team of baseball pretend to play baseball. So yeah, so I guess that's a good wrap up on opening weekend and the first week or so.
Yeah, that takes us through the standings. MLB a good league wrap around. Good first week of baseball. Nice to see it back. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much gonna do it for this episode of Sports Vibe. Enjoy talking about March Madness, both sides. Talking about the great men's matchups. The growth of the women's college game. I thought that was a really nice segment we had as well. And then of course MLB, NBA, and NHL. Looking ahead at the playoffs of basketball and hockey, talking a lot of March Madness, and ending, of course, with the MLB season. So, as always, I'm Arnav Sarkar, signing off for Jitesh Ramakrishnan, and we will see you next week.